So, for typography, if you take your pencil, we're going to create a typography stave. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to draw 3 lines. I'm going to make mine quite heavy so that you can see them. And I need them to be equidistant, please. Equidistant, whatever that is. Well, I've done 2 centimeters. You might not want to do 2. Depends how big you want your letters to be. But yeah, because I'm demonstrating, I'm happy for mine to be bigger and bolder. And just on that top line, just bring down, I don't know, about 5 mil, another line underneath. You should have something that looks like that. Sharpener. Yes, yes. I mean, this bottom line can, you know, it depends. I'm just going to do them equidistant anyway. To be fair, they are a little bit small. This line here is a little bit shorter, and that line there is a little bit shorter. Normally, if you were going to develop type, you know, as a typographer, but just for the sake of this exercise, we'll just do them equidistant. Okay. So what I'm going to talk about here is this line here is your main sort of protagonist, really. This is where most things happen, and this here is called your X height. Okay. X. Yeah, so that's your X height. Sorry, I need a sharpener and I don't have one. That's waiting for Jackie to come back in the room. That there. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it in pen so that we can see. So this here is called an X. Oh no, that's too thin. Where's Jackie? No. X height. Okay, so it's X. I hate a thin eyeliner, I really do. Okay, can you see this? If I scribble. Okay, can you see that? X height? And I haven't got any equipment with me today. So this is your X height, and this is where everything happens. And the reason it's called X height is because everything, the X fits on these lines. Okay, so every lowercase letter will fit on these lines. Okay, so you have an A, for example. So an A. Can everybody see that? So that fits within these lines here. Okay. But then we've got a B. So what do we do about the B? So the what we call the bowl of the B will be here. But we have what's called an ascender. Okay, so this is an ascender. Can everybody see that? Because my pen is actually running out. I'm going to have to use this pencil. Oh, she's back. Jackie. Can I have a 4B, please, and a sharpener and a better fine liner, please? A thicker one, if possible. Sorry, just not much. Just everything. No, it's just me because they can't see it. So this here is the. Oh, sorry, that's gone too high. Oh, silly me. Oh, no, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. So that there is the ascender. Okay, so that's what we call that, is it? Ascender. Okay, so if we were doing something like a P, sorry, I have a 4B, please, Bob. Thank you. No, this one's fine. And what happened? Because that was a really thin fine liner. That was 0.05. Are they all the same? Oh, 8, no, that'd be perfect. No, it's bigger. Yeah, it's bigger. Thank you. Okay. Can I have a sharpener as well? Please. Thank you. Just everything, Jackie, everything. So obviously the C will behave, and like an E will behave in the same way. But then you come to an F. So an F will obviously have what we call a descender. This is a descender down here. And that will go to that bottom line down there. Thank you, Jackie. So that will go down there. So that's basically what I wanted to show you today is ascenders and descenders. Now this line here, so that this here you would call your ascender height, and this is called your descender height. Okay. Now I could go into a lot more about typography, but I promise I really won't bore you with all the different terminology because I'll be here all day and you'll forget, because I forget all the time as well. And this line here, this little sort of sneaky line, is called your cap height, okay? Because the caps are slightly smaller than, so if I did a capital A, for example, your caps are slightly smaller than your ascenders. Okay, and I think with the ascender, I think what the reason is because you could have serifs, or is it a finial, Roy? Is it a finial? Would you call a finial when you've got a bracket for a serif like that? I think that's what it allows for. It allows for that little sort of flourish at the top.
I always associate that with T, where a letter T doesn't go to the fill.
Yeah.
Sender height, but I don't know.
Yeah, it can go down, like a T can do this, can't it? For example.
Yeah. So it's slightly lower than a B or a D.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And like an O is high. An O is a high. That always goes a little bit higher for some reason. So yeah. So Roy's very right. So that's ascenders, descenders, and X height. Okay. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I thought it might be nice. It might be useful in the long run, hopefully. If you want to learn any more about typography, I'm always here to bore you to tears with it. This here is called the baseline, and that's very important, and I nearly forgot to tell you that. So that's the baseline. So everything basically sits on there, apart from commas, not commas, apostrophes and various things like that. Okay, and I think it's what was I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say now, so I won't say it because I can't remember. Obviously, there's another couple of things that I wouldn't mind going through, and which you may very well know already about serifs and sans serifs or sans serif. Yeah. So just for those of you without teaching ground, just good. That's what I like. Yay! That's what I like to hear. Well, yeah, have I got a volunteer? Okay, so if for example I did a B, okay, and I closed off the ascender with a flat top, okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So this here, because it's just a nice flat top, that is called a sans serif or a sans serif, depending on how posh or French you are. Yes. Well, sans means without in French as well, so. Sans petit déjeuner, without breakfast, yeah. So that's called a sans serif. Okay. Now, if I did this, if I did another B, I'll do it down here.
Sorry, what's called a sans serif? The whole shape.
It's this end here. Okay. The foot. Yes. I know Roy's going to come up and talk about the beak, the arm, the bowl, the shoulder, the counters, the tittle. I'm sure you imagine you can talk a lot about tittles. Yeah. The kerning, the leading, yeah, the tracking. Like I say. S-A-N-S, and then it's another word, and it's Sarah. Okay, can you see that? S-E-R-I-F. So we've got another B down here, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a little sort of foot on the top, okay, and then I'm going to put a little one at the bottom. So you'll all have seen this. I mean, I presume that you all use sort of Word. Yeah. So if you used if you use Word and you use or any software really, word processing software or email software, in your font family, you will have possibly a Times New Roman. Okay, now Times New Roman is a serif font because it has these little feet at the top. Okay, so that's how you call what you call a serif. Okay, now a serif can be like this. This is called a bracket, but I won't go into that. That's a bracketed serif, but you don't need to know that. Or a serif can actually look just like this. Okay, so that's what you call a serif. That's a serif I, and a sans serif I would have no serifs. Okay, so that's quite important. The serif and the sans serif. I mean, you do get demi serifs and things like that, but that's nothing to worry about at the moment. It's either with a serif or it's without a serif. So there we go. So because what I'm going to try and do this morning is create an alphabet. And you're going to create an alphabet, and then hopefully we're going to use that alphabet to garnish the garland. That's the aim, I'm hoping. So we get to do our little play now. Let me just find, let me just find it. Aha. So what I would suggest that you did, rather than doing this straight away with the watercolour, because we need a very small brush to do this. So I did a few the other day with a brush, but I found that the brush had to be very, very, sorry, it's upside down. The brush had to be very, very small in order for me to do this. And I don't think we don't have like a 1, do we, Jackie? I think the lowest 2 might be a little bit on the big side. I don't know, but you can try it if you want to. It might be hard to control on the downstroke. Yeah, yeah. On a large area, it would be okay. So, what I'm going to demonstrate here is this brush alphabet that you have here. So what we're going to look for in calligraphy, which is sort of what we're doing. Okay, oh, brilliant, brilliant, okay. So what I'm going to do, just in pencil at the moment, is I'm going to draw this A. Okay, so I'm not, you can do it on here.
Are we doing it on the sheet?
Yes, you'll do it on here. I'm just going to demonstrate what I would suggest that you did first. So what I would also say is you're not writing anymore. You're now drawing letters. Okay, so look for the where the lines meet and various things like that. Okay, so you're not writing, because if I was going to write that, my handwriting is like this. So I would, that wouldn't happen. And so often do I, when I'm doing brush lettering or something, think, oh my gosh, and it ends up looking really messy if I start putting the handwriting in. But if I'm drawing, I'm sure I've got one here that I did. So if I'm drawing, then that's a million miles away from my handwriting. So this is what we need to be doing. So we need to draw these letters. So what will happen as well when you're doing calligraphy, when you're using your brush, you will, it's quite strange when you first start doing it, but on the upstroke you will have the point. Okay, so up the upstroke, and then on the downstroke you will have the center of the brush. Then you'll take it back up again, and then down. It's quite sort of rhythmic. But before that happens, what I suggest you do is do it in pencil, and just find your way in terms of the of these fatter and thinner downstrokes. And that's how I would begin. Okay, and that will give you a good sense of how it should sort of look. And before you go into the brush, really, because I think that might sort of be a little bit too disappointing sometimes. Also, when you're looking at these letters, like for example the B here, the B, I thought, oh gosh, that's a strange B, but it actually sort of curves right out. So yeah, it is actually. No, there's not. So mine's gone a little bit over. But the beauty is when you're doing it like in pencil, you can make a few mistakes. It's fine. It is. It is. So what I would suggest is that you just took this alphabet and you ran with that just with a pencil at first. Then I'd be tempted to move over to the pen, so it's a little bit more defined. And then I would be tempted to get out the brush. And did you give me one, Jackie? Did you give me a little one? Lose me out all the time.
So we try to do them at the same size as on the piece of paper?
Yes, just with your pencil, with a nice sharp pencil. Just do it like that, because thanks, Jackie. It's quite difficult to do in that way. Yeah, if Hazel comes, just Hazel. Yeah. Alison's definitely not coming. Okay. Was it in the UK or you don't know? Okay. So this paper that Jackie's given us as well, but it's not watercolour paper, but it's that is that recycled coffee cup? Yeah, the Costa cup. But it's okay for practicing this. You'll get a better finish obviously when you get to the watercolour, but this is a great practice. Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely good. So it doesn't absorb quite as much as the watercolour. Everyone's very quiet, that's good. So what I'll do, I'll pause the video now and then come back to it. Is that and then when we do the next recording. Okay, so just for the benefits of the recording, what I would suggest once you get into the drawing with paint, I would try and hold your brush as high as possible so you get that fine point. So when you actually dip it in the paint, you can give it a little twist so you've got that nice point, and then you can just use your little finger to rest. Remember, you're drawing as well, you're not painting. Okay, and then you should be able to get, you can still fill it in afterwards, don't worry too much about it. Obviously this isn't watercolour paper that I'm using, so we haven't got as much time to go back in and amend really, because it dries very fast. So like I say, I'll show you, it's a bit difficult to see on the camera. I'll hold it like this, so that is the position of my hand. So the paper would actually go onto that little finger as such, and I would hold that quite straight, just so you get that point. So you can either do this on a larger piece of paper or use a very fine brush. This is a 1, and you can do that onto here. So if that is the case, you can make it a little bit smaller. I personally think smaller is a bit more difficult. I think a 1 might be okay. Let me just try. Okay, it is a little bit more tricky. Heck of a lot more tricky, actually. So I'd say the B is possibly the trickiest, hence why I'm doing it. So yeah, so hopefully, just don't necessarily have to do all the alphabet. You can just do you just do the letters that you need, or the letters that you think might be the most challenging. You know, C's aren't very challenging. I wouldn't say E's aren't very challenging, but things like B's and S's are quite challenging. W's, H's, B's, F's. They're possibly the most challenging of all, I would say. Okay, so having done this, what I would suggest that you started working on now is an alphabet. So just using these here as a little bit of a guide, but you don't have to stick to them. If that O is too tricky, just do your own O. It's of no consequence, honestly. But what I would do, I would get a piece of watercolour paper. Have we got any watercolour paper on the table, Jackie? Okay, just yeah. So I would practice first on the back on here. So I would construct an alphabet on here. No. In fact, no, because I think it should be more organic. That was only to show you about ascenders and descenders and things like that, and X height, just so you, because obviously you're going to break the rules to a point, but you have to know the rules to sort of break the rules as such. Yeah. So what I would do on a plain sheet, I would just draw an A and a B and a C, and then go in and you know, B, I can't even remember, D, yeah. Yeah, I would do that, and then I would sort of construct my alphabet, you know, however it was, and then possibly go over it, or you can just be very daring and go in there and just, you know, just do them off the cuff as such. So you can just sort of do that. And the beauty as well with brush lettering is that it generally doesn't follow a baseline either. So you could have, you know, like where's that example I just did? As you can see, I haven't followed that baseline, so it sort of goes up, and I think that's quite organic, personally. Yeah, so there's no baseline really for me there. So I've just sort of made it a little bit more fun, I'd like to think. I wasn't having that much fun doing it. I was concentrating very hard. I mean, you will notice a huge difference when it comes to using the watercolor paper as well. So Okay, so I'm just going to demonstrate how we can use the watercolour to obviously create the letters, and using a few watercolour techniques. So if I do, what's an easy one? If I do a G, okay. So you'll find a little bit more drag with the brush on a watercolour paper, but that's okay. So there's a G. So if what I could do is a couple of ways to do it. So I could, in theory, just paint that in water. And then you can go in, I can see it, and then just pop in the watercolour there. You can put a couple of colours then in there if you wanted to. And hopefully that should spread up over the whole thing. As you can see, where you put the water, which is what I can never really see. I think I could just about see that there, and there's a line going up there. Yeah, that's it. Sorry?
You need quite a bit of water.
Yeah. Well, it's that wet in wet sort of technique. You know what it's like. It's difficult to actually see, but it's quite a nice effect. Yeah. You know, and you can move it around. You can push it into those corners and do what you will with it. And then we can create another. So. And then add another colour, yeah, under there. And then we can merge those two together if we want to. I think this one's a little bit more pigmented, so I need a little bit more water. The only thing you've got to watch is obviously the backgrounds, the cauliflowers. You can go back in there and change that though. Oh, that's quite a nice blend. So that's just me picking up the original. But what you can do, go back in there, not with too much water, obviously just a little bit of a damp brush, and you can move that around. Otherwise, you're going to get a cauliflower, and then that's how you can sort of blend that together. Okay. So it's quite nice. I mean, you can even if you, I don't know, say for example, I do this. I can still go in there, and I can do wet on wet with what I've got down, and then you just create obviously a different colour. So if I put the blue on there now, then you can do it that way too. And just let it take its course, which I'm always a bit too impatient to do, but you catch the drift. Yeah. So that's a way that you can sort of start blending the colours really. So so bear that in mind. It is going to be lunch break any second, so if you want to, you know, what time is it now? 11. Gosh. So if we aim to break for lunch at 12:30, is that okay? And then we can start on the garland. Okay, thank you.
I'm paying attention.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so for the next part of the lesson, what we're going to do, obviously you can copy this exactly as it is, but what we're going to look at, I think we should have some different sorts of decorations and various things like that. So what I would suggest you did you can, if you've got lots of time, you can trace it, and Jackie's got some tracing paper, or you can if you've got tracing paper at home, or you can draw it, or you can make up your own. It's entirely up to you. So what you're really looking at is a garland. And using those typography skills, we're going to create something in the middle. Okay, so really that is it. I can't really guide you so much on anything more than that, because obviously we'll be using all the watercolor skills that you've gained over the past, I don't know, few sessions, and obviously we'll be using you know, wet in wet and the various sort of glazes in order to get this image. Okay, so like I say, Jackie will have sent you a lot of different images, and obviously feel free to source them yourself. Yeah, so what I'll be doing is just I'll be here if anybody needs any advice. What I'll do as well, if that is the case, then I will record those little bits of advice should I think that they're necessary. Okay, well, good luck, and thank you very much.